and then he always goes home at 5, and he never goes out anymore. Bored Bob is the present simple with adverbs of frequency, because his life is just a routine. Goes on and on and on. And when I have a student who forgets to use the third person S, I can say, remember Bored Bob. And suddenly they go, oh yeah, Bored Bob. Always. And it's so much quicker than me saying, remember the rules of the present simple, if they've got this character that they link with the grammar and they feel the grammar more through the character. It's something to do with the relationship between the name, the character, and the rule. Let's try another one. You might, some of the ladies in the room might sympathise with this character. Yeah. This is Betty. She's busy Betty, yes. What tense is busy Betty? I'm speaking to someone. I'm rushing to work. I'm having a meeting. I'm sending an email. I'm picking up the kids. I'm going out with friends. Betty is very busy, and she is the present continuous for action happening at that moment of speaking. And suddenly the students can remember busy Betty in a way that they can't remember the present continuous. So putting a name to grammar, it can really help a student. Let's do a little experiment. See if you can still think at this time of day. People down this row, I want you to come up with the name of a person and the adjective for the grammar point of will, for instant decision making. People in the middle, come up with a character for superlatives. Okay, the name and the adjective. And people here, could you come up with a character for going to, for planning for the future? Okay? Name of a person and an adjective.
Person придумать что-то. Да. Busy Betty. No imagination. Will. Who will? Will, yeah, will. Who will? Но will последний, да, который will. Will dream.
А может быть он lazy, потому что он же собирается только сделать.
Нет, он может он раз на грани. Он только задачный. Puzzle pole, хорошо вы сказали, потому что звуки.
Puzzle pole.
Okay, any suggestions from the will row? Anybody with will?
Willing will.
Willing will.
Strong will.
Strong will. Okay.
Strong will.
Give me some sentences from willing will. What types of thing? I'll.
Is going to feel.
Go to London.
I'll go there. I'll get that. I'll send the email. I'll do it. He's always willing to do something. Yes, willing will is a good one. Yeah. Superlatives. Richard the richest. Yes. Okay. The first. Any others?
Super active Superman.
Super what?
Active Superman.
Kind of Superman character, who's also the strongest, fastest, and so on. Yep. Going to.
Puzzle Paul. What is he going to do?
Ah, what is he going to do?
He's
Puzzle
going
Paul.
To puzzle Paul. Yeah, he's going to peel potatoes with.
That's a very nice one for the structure of the question form. I like that one. Yes. So students can do this. You can either do it as part of your grammar presentation, or what I do sometimes is with higher level students as a kind of review activity. They go back through their grammar book and they create a character just to recycle and review the language. So a nice activity that gets students imaginative and just makes the grammar a bit more interesting, to be honest, in terms of the names. Now at the beginning, we talked about that we cannot assume that students automatically imagine things. And often in our class, sometimes we find the students who are very creative, very imaginative, and we find the students who aren't so imaginative or creative. Now, typically with the left hemisphere of the brain and the right brain, we tend to use the left side of the brain for more rule-based activities, for mathematics problems, logic problems, that type of thing. It's the side of the brain that we use to categorize, and we like rules. We tend to use the right side for more creative activities, music, painting, literature, that type of thing. Learners quite often tend to be dominant according to one hemisphere or the other. So our maths students quite often prefer using the left side of the brain, whereas our art students would use the right side of the brain. Successful learners will of course use both sides, and if they're weaker in one side, they'll start to develop that side of the brain. So Einstein, although you would expect him to be quite a sort of a left-sided brain thinker, was also very good at using the right side of his brain as well. In terms of grammar teaching, traditionally the books that we use and our approaches to grammar tend to favour learners who tend to use the left side of the brain. And in the past, they've always been more successful as language learners. And I think it's possibly because we've always taught more to the left side of the brain than to the right side. I think it's changed a lot in recent years. But there's no reason why our right-sided brain dominant students can't also be using the language. And certainly classrooms which involve a lot of imagination and a lot of creativity will help students who tend to be more right-sided dominant. Now, how does this work in terms of grammar teaching? Well, if a student reads a grammar rule like that, which is rather unexciting, it's basically a list of rules for an plus occupation from an elementary level grammar book, they just get a list of rules. Now our left brain hemisphere student would be very happy with that kind of description because they get a nice rule and then they can apply it and fill all the gaps and everybody's happy. And I'm quite happy to do that kind of activity as long as it's not for too long. But our more creative right-sided brain student, this just goes over their heads. It's important for their own reference, but they won't get very far if that's all we're doing in class, that kind of grammar work. What we need to do is combine language with images a lot of the time, and visuals and images are important. So very simple exercise for our right-brained students. You've got this on the handout. I just want you to have a think about what 3 things the women say in that conversation. Read the conversation and try to imagine what they're saying. Okay, very simple activity. I'm sure you've used it before. But it just starts to help the more creative students. So let's have a think. We've got the interviewer says, what do you like doing in your free time, Miss Venezuela? And the students brainstorm what they think she might say, and then they compare it with the original, which in this case is, I enjoy helping old people and children, because that's what Miss World competitors say. Notice, what do you like doing in your free time, and I enjoy helping old people and children. Then to Miss Japan, what do you plan to do in the future? I'd like to help old people and children. So she suddenly switches to the infinitive, of course, because that's what the question came in. So last we've got, what have you decided to do, Miss Hungry? I've decided to help old people and children. And then I get the students to analyse the structures, and suddenly I've got my lesson on ing forms and infinitives, and we're off in a more interesting, creative way than if I just presented the rule, just combining the pictures with the language. And the imaginative students are helped into this type of lesson more than they would be normally. Something that we could use. Incidentally, I'm not supposed to encourage photocopying, but I'm also a teacher, and the representative from National Geographic isn't here. The book has lots of these types of cartoons, so it's very easy to copy and create this kind of activity with them. You can use it with the students in that way. But I think the use of the images is really important. I just want to stop. You've got this summarised on the handout, but if you want to do more imaginative activities with grammar and you've come away from your grammar lesson saying, my students don't like using their imagination, I think you need to consider learner training and guidance. Give them prompts like I did with the clock, and you had those comparative statements. Think about how they can personalise the grammar and use other knowledge. So think about Busy Betty and Bored Bob and how students personalise it. How they can use the whole brain. Think about your left brain learners and your right brain learners. Use images and languages together. Mental images are important as well. And allow time afterwards for students to reflect on the grammar. So when they've done that activity with the Miss World, they have time to analyse the language that occurred in the cartoon. Finally, there are particular activity types that are important. And this isn't on the handout, but there's a book by Kieran Egan, which I've put on the reading list. And he wrote a whole book about using imagination in the classroom. And he picked out particular activities that are very effective for getting students' imagination going. They include poems, songs, stories, and jokes. And in practical grammar, for example, we've included some short stories, some poems and joke type things in the context. On your handout, I've included one of the poems I like to do with students. I do this when I've been doing question forms. So I might have input some question forms, and then we do this as a kind of a drill. It's based on jazz chants. Do you use jazz chants? Yes. Yeah. But this is a kind of nice one. If you teach business English students and you've done question forms, this is kind of looking into what the person did with their boss the other night. So it's a bit of office gossip, okay? Let's try it out. I'll drill it, and then we'll do it. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. Where are you from?
I'd rather not say.
I was going to drill the whole thing first. We'll just do a listen and repeat thing. So, where are you from? Where are you from? I'd rather not say.
I'd rather not say.
Where do you work?
Where do you work?
I'd rather not say.
I'd rather not say.
How much do you earn?
How much do you earn?
I'd rather not say.
I'd rather not say.
Where were you last night?
Where were you last
You
night?
didn't answer the phone.
You didn't answer the phone.
Were you working late?
Were you working late?
Did you go home alone?
Did you go home alone?
Did you go to a party?
Did you go to a party?
Did you see a good play?
Did you see a good play?
Did you go with the boss?
Did you go with the boss?
I'd rather not say.
I'd rather not say.
Perfect. You guys are great. Right, the people down this side, you're the nosy office worker. You're going to do the questions. People on this side, you're answering I'd rather not say in a very polite English kind of I'd rather not say kind of way. Okay? People asking the questions, it gets a bit jazzy here. It's a bit tricky in places, so maybe help you in the middle. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Where are you from? I'd rather not say. Where do you work? I'd rather not say. How much do you earn? I'd rather not say. Where were you last night?
Okay, the way it goes, they stop answering and then you go, Where were you last night? You didn't answer the phone. Were you working late? Did you go home alone? Gets a bit kind of hip hop, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. Where were you last night? You didn't answer the phone.
Were you working late? Did you go home alone? Did you go to a party? Did you see a good play? Did you go with the boss? I'd rather not say.
Fantastic. Okay, questions now, you guys. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Where are you from? I'd rather not say. Where do you work? I'd rather not say. How much do you earn? I'd rather not say. Where were you last night?
That's were you like late?
Where were you last night?
Were you last night?
You didn't
Answer the phone. Were you working late? Did you go home alone? Did you go to a party? Did you see a good play? Did you go ride the bus?
I'd rather not say.
Okay, I'm going to stop there because I can see they're getting ready with certificates and things outside the door. Well, I'll just, to finish, let me tell you that I've given you the website, but if you want any information from slides, copies of handouts, or you have a question or a comment, feel free to email me at john@hugheselt.com. And I will answer any questions you have about what we did today, okay? Can you read it at the back? John@hugheselt.com. So thank you very much for spending the afternoon with me.